Thank you so much for attending today. Our second event, the first one was an absolute knockout success. Just to remind you guys that from the first one, the key thing that was mentioned on the panel, which is really what our function is here today, which is to connect people, the UK urban professional community, make sure that people are not only connecting, but being connected to obviously further their careers for the advancement of this industry and sustainability of it. So today we have a special, a lot more focused than the SWOT analysis we did last month. And this is looking at working in America, many different aspects of that, and we've got some of the most qualified panel members that we could ask for today. Just to clarify on the working in America, what the editorial parameters are for that. A couple of people did message us and say, well, you know, what is the value of doing something on working in America? And it will be revealed in a few moments' time. But it's not specifically about taking our artists and just exporting them out there, but we're going to be looking at kind of all the issues that are involved in progressing your career out there, from the consequences to some of the strategy to how it's going to affect your career here in the UK. But I'll talk no more about that. I'm going to hand over straight to our brilliant panelists. By all means, grab a mic and introduce yourself, and then we'll get straight into it.
Hi, I'm Amanda Glasby, and thanks so much for coming. Very nice to be here. I specialize in getting visas for artists. All right, I specialize in the O1 visa. You may have heard of it. It's for aliens of extraordinary ability. No, I didn't make that up. So, but it's a wonderfully flexible visa. It's very elastic. All right, so if you're in any sort of creative field or even in a business field, it's a really excellent way to go to the States. Importantly, it's not necessarily to live in the States, but a great many of my clients use it to go back and forth a great deal. All right, so if you go to New York, you have meetings to do, you have business to conduct, this is a visa that will ease your way. All right, so I'm just here to hopefully demystify that for you.
Hi, I'm Jazzy B, the original Funky Dread, and I'm a man with many passports. It's open to all of us to do that sort of thing as well, and looking forward to some interesting debates.
Hi, I'm Dreddy, producer, artist, formerly of Soul Salad Crew. Yeah, these like made my introduction sound so whack. I'm just here because I'm working in America a lot. I'm just here to, you know, give you as much info as possible and get as much info myself off these two stuff. So.
Each question will be open to the whole panel, so feel free to jump in. You've all got your own mics. First high-level question, just to get into it, is what is the appeal in working in America?
It's bigger. There's a lot more people. There's, I don't know about you guys, but I feel there's a lot more, less creative restriction out there. You know, I feel like anybody can do it. Like, you know, it's open to new music. It's open to just ideas. You know what I mean? It just feels less restricted than here, for me personally. That's how I feel.
I know that a lot of my clients come to me, almost all of them actually, and I think that what has happened is that they feel like they've done very, very well creatively in their home countries, you know, be it the UK or France or Italy, and that you know, New York or Los Angeles, it feels like the next thing. It feels like the next challenge, and there are people who are good enough and ambitious enough and who have the audacity to think that you always have to keep moving. You always have to know how much you can do and what you can become. And so I think that all of my clients have that same kind of hunger to know what's in them, you know, to know what they could do in the United States.
I guess personally I'm coming from way, way, way back then, when we were making cassettes and 12-inch and 7-inch records. So for me it was really important that I was English. And the fact that the experience that most of Black America had, they hadn't had the English, or the Black English experience. Some things don't change, i.e. like your music teacher will always tell you, a good melody is never forgotten. Well, once you make your mark in America, or a place like America, particularly the Midwest, outside of New York and LA, it has a big impression, and often enough it's, well, I'm here, I'm still here. 20-something years later, so yeah, that's my rap on America.
Looking at the old school and the new school, with Dreddy being a new school and somebody looking to America, someone to develop his career, and yourself, Jazzy, as somebody who's had a lot of success out there, how do you feel that the playing field has changed? I asked the panel, how do you feel that the playing field has changed over the recent years?
It's been quite incredible. When I first went to America in the days of the Africa Center, I did a residency out there in a club called Mars in the meatpacking district. What was really interesting going there at that time, it was very segregated. It's a term what the NAACP uses as empowerment. The NAACP is the National Advancement for Coloured People, who ended up honouring me in 1990, and they were more interested in the difference between a black English experience, post Marcus Garvey, to the American black experience, pre-Rodney King. Dreddy was saying about the idea of it being open. In the old days, America was our oyster because they wasn't used to the English experience. Where, personally speaking now, for the new kids on the block, to me it's like an apartheid here, because what's happening is that the music is so segregated. And back in the 70s, Britain was truly the shopping window for the rest of the world in terms of the variety of music, and the fact that you could have a person like John Peel playing everything from an obscure, you know, folk singer all the way through to Light of the World. Where nowadays you got Choice, you got One Extra, you got all these extremist radio stations going on. So how is the person in the middle of Middlesbrough going to be able to understand our emotions here down south? For me, that's a big problem, because when I went to America, it was truly segregated. You were put in the black department, and in order for you to cross over, you had to do well in the black division. Looking at things nowadays, things have become supposedly much more open. As an old boy would say, I'm not so sure of that. So I think there are various problems out there, because a lot of things have now been compartmentalized and put on the shelf. And for want of a better word, from a marketing point of view, it makes it easier for you to understand each genre and where the different styles of music come from. For me, places like London, New York, Washington, Chicago, Birmingham, Bristol, we have a street culture, and it's all about that culture. In order for us to get to the next stage is what we carry our culture to another territory. And we were always dissed in Britain because most of the black music was trying to emulate what the Americans were doing. And now, I'm proud to say, as an Englishman, as a black Englishman, we have our own experience now. I go to different countries, and I was in China quite recently, and they only wanted to hear British music. They wasn't interested in American music. But for me, back home now, it's kind of changed, because we are still the guinea pigs. We're still looking for that voice, and unfortunately, we're not sort of making the inroads as I believe that we should do, particularly when you look at a situation like Soul to Soul. And I know I'm very much who wants to see progress, and I want to see it happen now, and I don't want to wait till tomorrow. And for me, it's a little bit slow. So it's interesting now looking at the American experience, where they've got a little bit more continental, especially in their white dress sense. There's the whole idea of them trying to be this kind of postmodern thing. But we have a lot to be proud of here. And that's one of the things I really wanted to share with you today, is the fact that, you know, you guys are the future, and it's a matter of you persevering and hopefully picking up some tips from these guys about the immigration stuff and stuff like that to get yourself out there. As well, don't be afraid of technology, because that's helped a lot of us.
On the formal immigration side, and maybe you guys can speak on moving forward what the difference is in the hustle between developing a career here in the UK and developing a career in the US.
And the hustle. It's a very serious hustle. I mean, I was just saying to my friend over there, like, over here, my competition in the producer field, it was a lot. You know what I mean? But like now, the albums that I'm working on out there, my competition is like Pharrell and Dre. And like out of the super producers, there's at least a good 10 of them that are really killing it out there. So imagine the ones you don't know. Do you know what I mean? So that my hustle was just absolutely crazy. Even when I was doing well out here, I would fly to America and I'd just walk around Times Square with beat CDs in my pocket. And I'd just bump into people and just be an absolute pain in the arse, just a bully. Like, I
You're
was
a
just
New Yorker.
Yeah, a New Yorker. I just get on their nerves, and I'd go to the studio and I'd hustle, and you only get one chance to make an impression, you know what I mean? And I used to go there and I used to tear people's heads off, play like 100 beats. And you just have to be that more aggressive when you're there. And then when I have the same mentality here, it's like people don't know what to do. They can't really manage it. But it's a lot harder out there. And sometimes I think, especially radio and just people out here do not appreciate or understand what I've had to go through. I sold my house and my car to make this work. You know what I mean? And it's going to work. That's how I have it. You know what I mean? Success to me, you know what I mean? It's like, success is like given if you get up one more time than you fall. And that's my motto, and I just keep going. So like, it has to work. I'll be getting around like Estelle, so.
Amanda, the legal process underpins a lot of the maneuvers that people of extraordinary talent have to make. Dreddy just gave us an example of pushing out his CDs on Times Square. Is it that simple, or is there more to think about from your perspective? Should he have said that? Is he about to go to jail?
Come on. No, I love the story of you doing that. I mean, my clients
there's
are...
plenty more stories.
and I look forward to hearing that. No, I think that I agree. I mean, when I meet with my clients, and they're in every field you can imagine. I mean, they're magicians, they're thrash metal drummers, they're television psychics, they're karate champions. I mean, it's a whole range of people. But I think the one thing that does happen is that they come and they're not idiots. They're afraid. They're daunted. New York is where the best people go to test themselves. But I think that even to hear him describe it, I mean, it's a tremendous amount of work, but he's also exhilarated by it. And so I think it's terrifying and very exciting. And so for the people who want to make it work, it becomes part of the creative process of staying in New York. The visa is funny too because it's a limited amount of time. The O1 visa that I do, it's a 3-year visa, and I think people come with such an intense sense of that there's a deadline, and the things that people manage to accomplish with absolutely nothing but nerve and talent is really amazing. Because I think that Manhattan is enormous and tiny at the same time. It's enormously powerful, but it's a tiny little place. And that feeling that you can have where if you hand your CD to the right person, if you talk for 10 minutes at a party to the right person, those stories are true. And so if you can hang in there and keep meeting people, New Yorkers are actually very warm, very curious people. I mean, you don't want to talk to us about the weather because we don't want to hear it. But, in terms of, shaking hands and saying, here's who I am, I've got something, New Yorkers like to hear that. So if you do go, don't be modest. Get in front of them and tell them that you're the best. That they'll be intrigued by that.
What stage do you need to be in your career to go over to Manhattan or LA or any of the major metropolitan areas and have these conversations?
Well, I suspect that most of you will probably come over on the 3-month waiver, right? And a lot of my clients pop back and forth for a while, meeting people, seeing how it feels, seeing whether they want to live there. When you're ready to start talking about the visa, that extraordinary standard, I know it sounds sort of horrifyingly subjective, where you think, okay, well, if someone doesn't like my music, I'll never get in. And if the guy had a great date the night before, then he'll approve my case. It's a lot more objective than that. All right? It's a pretty elegant statute, actually, which is that they determined that extraordinary careers, regardless of what you do, tend to manifest the same kinds of evidence. All right? So there's a point system. There's 7 kinds of evidence. If your career manifests 3 out of those 7, you qualify. Okay? And so when we work with clients, we obviously try to submit 5 or 6 when possible. It depends on what you do, but for example, musicians, press, save everything. All right, don't be a snob. Every little mention of your performance in timeout, every little scrap. If your friend has an art, webzine or something like that, be interviewed and just save it all. It depends on what you do. PR people don't have press on themselves; they procure press on behalf of others. The one thing that I would offer some encouragement to is that if you do a kind of work where you're not credited, but someone benefits by what you do, I can work with that. All right, so don't think that that precludes you from the category. But if you're interested, and we're going to stay here and answer any questions that you have, the best thing that you can do is pop us your website, pop us a CV or a resume, And really, usually at a glance, we can tell if you're ready or not. We give a lot of good news in the sense that a lot more people qualify than believe do. So, you know, let us sort of make the decisions. So I know you're all very modest because you're British, so let me take a look at it. I'll tell you you're extraordinary because I suspect you think you aren't. So,
Jazzy, how's having a legit status in so many different places helped your career over a period of time?
It's not that hard. My original status scenario came from because my parents come from a colonial island and they actually have British passports. When Soul to Soul first became successful in America, I was given a B1, which was in 1987. And then between the B1 and B2, somehow I ended up with national insurance. And
can we get that in layman's terms? So B1, B2, what that is?
You might have to explain that.
Well, the B1, B2, it's a 6-month tourist visa, and so what will happen sometimes is, for example, you know, if Harry's brother wanted to come and visit for longer than 3 months, they wanted to talk about some kind of deal, you can automatically get in with your passport for 3 months. You can also go to the consulate and explain to them that you need more time than that, and they'll actually put a proper visa in your passport. It's the B1, B2. And that's issued in 6-month interims, and you can extend it. Okay, so.
And then after the 6-month one, we were really lucky in '88 to get a #1, and I was issued. I got a job, not a real job, a funny job, to keep me in America, and I had to stay there for maybe about, I think, maybe 2 years or something. And I ended up with a social security number and an address. And subsequently I've been, for want of a better word, I used to play the field, but I have an issue because of my domicile ruling in Britain. It's actually based in the Caribbean. The Soul to Soul have been based in Antigua for the last 16 years. And there was various things that happened along the journey, such as we got the keys to a few cities out there, which kind of helped to legitimize a lot of drama. So there was the keys to 7 cities that Soul to Soul were awarded in 1990. Again, that helped. And these are all things that I think, as young people coming up, those are things that you can look forward to. And then we were honoured by the NAACP in the same year that I won 2 Grammys, and then that helped. And then I ran Motown for like 2 years.
So you ain't done much then?
I'm still working on it. Things helped actually last year because my domicile is actually in the Caribbean. So I tend to move around North America quite a bit like that. And you end up sowing little seeds. Whereas my friends sold these house and everything else, I mean, some of us really have to do a lot, which is again to a lot of young people. Some of us don't realise it does take that blood, sweat and tears. Truly, truly does. You honestly have to believe in yourself way above any of your friend them, because I'm not being funny, as an older person I'm going to tell you now, friend of them, they could be your worst enemy. So you've got to think about that. That's quite serious. You're making a decision in this game. It's an important decision that you have to make. And some of us, we like to rely on a friend because our friend will tell me what we want to hear. But the truth of the matter is, you have to stay strong. It doesn't mean you have to have a dark heart. But like, you know, Amanda's been saying, things like the press clippings, all the little things that you do, like Dubs have been saying about always be ready. You always have to be ready. And I'm sick and tired of meeting up with people and I've got a demo, but it's not really finished because I can't get any money because I don't. I mean, it's all stupidness. Serious. You have to really, really look, make a decision from the get-go. Because a lot of us are sparring with this idea. You look at MTV or U Channel or even certain man and you just think like they just come up with it like that. Trust me, my parents came here in the 50s. Everything that is down to what's happened to me, even like last year with the OBE, is because of the blood, sweat and tears that the other guys put in. And I was around in the days from Long time. Pre-digital. And that will tell you from my first record, which is now 21 years old. You have to believe in yourself. And it is a lot of hard work, because the music business, like most of the arts, there aren't necessarily any rules. But much like the fact that, you know, I can see a couple of men in the room now who have had various experiences and they're still here. That's also very important, because we do learn from one another. And America, for me personally, it's a funny sort of like debate to be in. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about it later, but I'm not that thrilled with America on the note. And it's been very good to me. But then I have another head in terms of what I believe we can achieve. And one of the things is something that's happening in this room today. There hasn't been enough of us consolidating and reasoning with one another and sharing our experiences. You know, you young people got to realize this place, this very place, is a shopping window for the rest of the world. So when it comes to your arts and crafts, whether it's clothes you're making, music, or you want to show yourself as an artist or whatever, you have to realize that a lot of the good stuff is here. And if you can just dig up that good stuff and do something like what Dreddy's doing now, or do what I did in the 80s, the world technically can be your oyster.
Inspirational.
I don't want to speak after that.
Okay, we're all done. Go on. Dreddy, you're probably the guy that most young men and women can relate to in this room in terms of coming up right now with an American strategy. What is your strategy for America? When did it start? What are some of the moves that you're making, both legally and creatively, to break that market?
Yeah, I don't like the way you said legally. Like,
That was good, bro.
but, yeah. No, I can't even say there's just a strategy. Like, sometimes when I even look back on some of the stuff that I've done just to get through, I think if you think about things too much, with me personally anyway, I don't know about anybody else, but when I think about things too much, you normally make the wrong decision. Like when you're meant to be on your toes anyway. You know what I mean? And with me, I just went out there and I was just like, I don't know, I just didn't have a plan B. And it just made me even hungrier. And then just to see my competition level and what I had to do, it's like they say the strongest person in the room is the guy in the corner. And that's how I felt, like just on my own. I didn't have nothing to lose. You know what I mean? I didn't care. I was just more, like I said, just more in your face. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was stealing people's email addresses, sending them beats, everything. I was relentless with it. Like, yeah, I stole your email. I was just relentless with it. I just didn't care. Like, you know, and you kind of have to put yourself. Like for me, it was quite difficult because the first time I went to America was like in 2003 on a business level, and like that's when I had all the chart success out here. So to go out there and be nothing, you kind of have to get your mind, you know, prepared for that. Like you're starting from the grassroots again. You know what I mean? And that's just exactly what I did. There's no strategy. You just got to be on your toes and be an absolute bully. I can't put anything else.
I mean, I think the one thing I'd add to that is just as a New Yorker, I mean, relentless in New York is fantastic. It's not rude, you're not bothering people. I mean, they'll let you know if you are, but you shouldn't be shy about it because everyone else is doing the same thing. So I meet with clients all the time who are a little too shy about their achievements, and I actually think they don't qualify for the visa, and I have to kind of tease out from them what they've done and that they qualify. And so along those lines, they say, oh, you Americans, you're so, you know, you're so immodest, but do it, you know, and be clear about it. So that would be, in New York, that actually translates to something exciting and attractive, so.
And I think also, to add to that as well, like with certain situations in America, like when, like I said, if you think too much sometimes about what exactly you're doing, it will scare the shit out of you. Like I was hustling, I was walking around, I was giving out beat CDs, and then a friend of mine was like, yeah, come down to Sony Studios when it was there. And I walked in the room, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a producer, da da da. And I looked around the room, and it was just A-list. I think Buster was in there, Digger was in there. Everybody was in there, all these producers, and the guy was like, all right, you're a producer, play a beat. Now, you can imagine, at that moment, that's when I started to think like, oh shit. Like, you know what I mean? And I just went back into that, it's kind of like an alter ego kind of thing. I went back into that alter ego, and here I am today, like working with everybody out there. So
I'm a DJ, there are other people in the room that sing, produce and so on. I go out there with my records, somebody says, hey, come and do a gig for a few $100, you know, and you get away with it and that's cool, or you don't, what are the consequences?
Interesting, I want to look at
No, a lot of my clients, they come in, they use the tourist waiver, and that's how they meet people, and they do the work, and I can't tell you that it's okay, I can't tell you that it's legal, but people are doing it constantly. The scrutiny regarding that sort of thing is nil, and just don't be, some very pragmatic advice, just don't be stupid about it. Think about what you have in your bag when you leave the country, think about what you have in your bag when you come in. Don't travel with equipment, don't travel with receipts or a date book that says you have an appointment somewhere.
Itineraries.
Exactly. Yes.
Just had a band sent back because of that.
Oh, nice.
Itineraries, bad move.
I mean, one thing that I will say is that the waiver, most people think of it as the tourist waiver. It's also for business purposes. All right. So if you're coming in, and particularly if you're going back and forth, if you've ever been stopped and asked a question, they've noticed. All right. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to get in again, but you might, when they start asking you questions every time you come in, they're starting to figure it out. They're not quite as dumb as we wish, right? And so, they're starting to notice that you probably live and work there. At that point, honestly, like, give myself a call or give someone a call, because there are letters that you can travel with that will ease your passage, all right, that will explain. You have to wait until we're done.
I'm going to call you right now while you're up here.
Excuse us.
I started to get stuck. I think maybe it's because I left America like the 22nd and I came back like the 26th, and the guy was like, But,
you actually stepped outside the airport.
Yeah, I stepped outside and just waited till it passed midnight and came right back in. So, it varies a great deal. I mean, I had this Irish client, and she was just the most harmless. She looked like she baked cookies for a living, most harmless-looking little soul. And she lived in the United States for 14 years on the tourist waiver. She left every 3 months for 14 years. Was never asked a question. And some people come in twice and they're like you in the room. I mean, it's very random. A 6-foot dreadlock guy would be
But there are some things, if that's happening, like, please just drop me an email, because there are a couple of pretty simple things you can do that will make your life easier.
Can I ask a question? What's the difference between the visa you're talking about and the I visa?
Yeah, the I visa is a journalist visa, all right? So it's a 5-year visa for someone who's representing a foreign publication and is acting in the United States as that publication's correspondent, all right? The I visa is an amazing tool to get into the United States. It's a snap. I won't let you pay me to do them. They're too simple. You should do it yourself. But you go to the consulate, and I mean, I can tell you the basic ingredients, but you go to the consulate and they review it right there, and you get the visa. The visa that I specialize in is the O1 visa, and so it enables you to be paid by a U.S. company, all right? And it depends on who you want to think about who your visa sponsor is. A lot of my clients start with the I, because it's a great tool in terms of getting in. But what happens is you get into the United States, and anyone who looks at your I visa and knows anything about it knows that you can't work for a U.S. company. So it's a great way to get in, but at some point you may want to think about getting the O and opening those doors in terms of, U.S. compensation.
I want to hear some Shawshank Redemption stories. What are the consequences? Are you going to jail?
If you get caught working legally, I mean, I have to say, the reason, I don't mean to sidestep, to get caught, you have to be such an idiot. You really have to work at it, or have a friend who set you up for it or something. You really have to concentrate. But if they understand you've been working illegally, you'll be barred from coming back to the United States.
If you're a rapper or DJ producer, can you go out there, rap, DJ, tell jokes as a stand-up comedian for free?
Yes.
And not be paid for it?
Yes.
As a promotional, what's the state,
What I would do with something like that is that if someone wanted to, if you wanted to come in, and let's say that I wanted you to perform at one of my parties, right? I wasn't going to pay you. It was, it was a promotional thing. Then what I could do is I could provide you with a letter saying, listen, he's coming to my office. He's going to perform for me for promotional reasons. We're thinking about working together, but we're not now. The magic key with that is to reassure them that you are not being compensated stateside for what you're doing. That is what they're looking for. so if you have that, if you have, and particularly if you have letters on both sides, so for example, if you have a UK letter saying he's going there for business purposes, and you have a US letter saying, I assure you I look forward to meeting him, but I'm not paying him, that's the perfect kind of bookend that will help you to get in, okay?
Can people pay a UK company?
You can start out like that. I mean, you're going to end up with the same problem that you're there on the tourist waiver, and at some point you're going to rent an apartment, you know, maybe you'll have a car, maybe you're dating someone there, and you're going to start going back and forth, and each time you come in, you're endangering your ability to come back in another time. And I should say, I don't mean to make it sound too frightening. What will happen is that if you've been going back and forth, you know, if you've been in the United States 11 out of 12 months, they know that you're not taking snaps of, you know, Times Square, where you're obviously, you're living there. What will happen is that they'll either sort of shake their finger at you and give you a warning, or they'll reduce the amount of time that you can come in. Okay, the waiver's very discretionary. Like if you get someone who's really cranky, they can refuse to let you in. It's extremely rare. But generally, most clients, they use the waiver a few times to kind of make some connections, and then after that, they come and see me in terms of finding a longer term solution, because it just becomes stressful.
Any questions and or comments from people in the room today? Remy?
Hi, it's a question for Amanda. The O1 visa, is it, you have to have a sponsor still? Does a company have to sponsor you to go, or are you just going because you're extraordinary? That's my first part. And the second part is, from start to finish, what's the average cost?
Sure. I have some good news in regards to the O1 visa, which is that all the employment visas require a U.S. sponsor. All right, there's no getting around that. But the one thing that you should, particularly in terms of the kinds of work that you do, one thing that's amazing about the O1 visa is that the requirement for your sponsor is that it be a U.S. company. All right. With the O1, it's much more interested. It shines a much brighter light on your extraordinary ability than your sponsor. Okay, so you can have a tiny little two-person company. They don't care. That said, although you're not American, you do have the ability to open your own U.S. company. I can use that company to sponsor your visa. And so you can immediately understand the kind of freedom that will give you. To use a bad example, if you come in, you hook up with a sponsor, you think, fantastic, I've got a sponsor, I've got the visa. 3 months into the visa, you look at your sponsor and say, to hell with you, I'm going to do these other things. The visa follows the sponsor. All right, when you leave your sponsor, you lose the visa. All right, so in terms of thinking of the sponsor, choose wisely. So along those lines, when people have a lot of cool things going on, particularly band managers, when they have cool things going on, I love it when they incorporate, because you're so autonomous. It utterly protects you. That said, that company can also then sponsor other people. You could bring over an assistant, you could bring musicians, you could bring producers, so it's very empowering. I do flat fees for my visas, all right, so my fee is $3,800, as for half when we start, and then half when it's approved. All right.
Dollars or pounds?
Oh, excuse me, dollars. And in the middle of that are two other fees. All right, $175 to our attorney. All right, I'm kind of a strange creature. I have an MFA in creative writing, so that's how I ended up specializing in the artistic visas. And then there's a government filing fee. $320 if you want a response within 2 months, 2 or 3 months. Add $1,000 to that, and the government will respond in 2 weeks. Okay?
And the sponsors have to pay
Cash
as well,
always
don't
do it.
they?
Cash is king.
Not with the O1.
Every
No.
time.
So you had 1,000 and you add on 2,000 and 3,000.
It sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah, so all told, you're looking at about $4,500. My fees run towards the lower middle. I've heard everything from $2,000 to $15,000. I mean, if you're paying someone $2,000 to do an O1 visa, they're working out of the back of their car. I would be very cautious, but you know, just to contextualize it. All right.
Any further questions or comments, please, from the audience?
Yeah,
Please introduce
definitely.
yourself.
Okay, I'm going to put it to you, right? So,
If you could introduce yourself, my friend.
sorry, my name's Kwame, ATC Management. Yeah, so, bands come over,
Yes.
they get to Heathrow.
Yeah.
One of them is a pilot, and he has his itinerary on him. And obviously, they get pulled into a room. Yeah, exactly. Get pulled into a room, and literally, next thing I get a call, they're back on the plane going back. Now, here's the thing. Luckily, I've got a couple of weeks into the tour, so it's fine. And I've heard that there's some kind of certificate that basically I can get some kind of, because they're not getting paid for the gigs
Right.
over here. They're not getting paid for the gigs.
Right. They're not getting paid in the States.
No.
You're getting paid in the UK.
They're from the States and they're doing gigs over here, shows over here.
Uh-huh.
So they're not being paid for the gigs, they're strictly promotional. So,
I mean, what I would do is just, you should call me, I'll help you out. But I think the thing to do is to travel with documentation that just tells a really clear story of what's going on.
Yeah.
And again, if you have that, if you have the UK letter assuring them that there is payment being received and they're in the right direction, you have the US letter saying we are not paying them, this is very powerful for us promotionally, but we're not compensating them because we know that we may not. The other thing that we often do is that if you're coming in, and one of your reasons, among many things that you're going to do, one of the reasons you're coming in is to meet with me and to sort out these things. I'll give people a letter saying you're coming to meet me, and it helps because they see that you know someone, they see that you have good intentions to eventually work on getting the visa.
Anybody else in the room, especially if you're looking to develop your career in America? My friend, please introduce yourself.
My name is Eve. I work for Westside Radio, and I'm interested in. You're asking Dreddy a question.
Mm-hmm.
How do the US embrace UK artists? Like, if I wanted to send my demo out there, are they quite keen to hear the English accent, or are they totally?
I mean, they always love the English
I'm not really
accent.
interested.
You gotta turn it on extra thick when you get there. Like, what's going on? What's going on? You gotta really turn it on.
You did that.
Yeah, and they love it. You know what I mean? Use it, milk it. But in terms of like your actual talent and skill, they'll always be impressed by your accent, and they'll ask you if you've ever met the Queen. Be ready for that. They'll ask you if there's any black people over here. Be ready for that. After all the weird questions, your talent has to speak for itself, and it just has to be good shit. Simple.
And
Like,
what's like your step or line? I know you said you didn't have a strategy.
I don't really have a strategy. I kind of used like my time in the UK to really work on my craft and really perfect it. I have a thing just for me as a producer, like any current song that I'm listening to, especially from America, if I play my production after that and it don't sound good, I throw it away. And I throw away loads of beats every single day. And I'm a perfectionist within myself, like Jazzy was saying, it's good to have your friends, but at the same time, you gotta be real honest with yourself. And I'm really terrible with myself. I'm like, Jerry, that's whack, what the hell are you doing? And I'll throw it away and come back again. And I just perfect my craft, and I know that when I go out there, I gotta be confident in my work, because no one can sell myself like me. You know what I mean? So.
But can you sell yourself from the UK, or do you physically have to go there?
Gotta go.
Especially if you've got.
You know what?
If you're
Meeting
like,
people is
but
the
I'm
best.
a voice. A radio presenter is just a voice.
I know,
Gotta
meeting
go.
It's not
people
really
is
the image.
always better. You know, most of the links I've actually got is not from actually going to strategically have a business meeting. It's just going there, hanging out, being at the club, wherever. And then you meet people, say, oh, hi. And then you know, that's how most of the links I've had. Like, it's never really that strategic. Go have a meeting with this guy from Sony and then he gives you an album deal. It just doesn't, I don't really see it working like that. It's just, you know, personality. You gotta have the gift of the gab, as they say.
Jazzy, anything to add from your experience?
Just things have changed. It was way more easy in the old days.
Anybody else in the room looking to build on some of the things that we spoke about? It doesn't have to be a question, it can be a comment. Yeah, please introduce yourself there.
Summit from the Opera UK. And now you're talking about the I visa for journalists. I want to tell us more about that. Do you need a sponsor for that? Or, what's the turnaround in terms of getting a sponsor and stuff?
Summit's question was, just for anybody who may have not heard it, do you need an I visa?
Sponsor.
Do you need a sponsor?
A sponsor for the I visa,
Yeah, the sponsor of the I visa is going to be a UK publication. Okay, so if you work with a magazine here, then that magazine would basically offer you a contract and a detailed letter saying, this is our guy, and we need him in New York or Los Angeles because he's going to be reporting for us on what's happening in New York. It will only allow you to be paid by and published by that single. But it's an amazing way to start, all right? Because please don't pay anyone to do that for you. It's really simple, all right? But it's basically, you go in with a letter, a contract, and a detailed CV, let them know what you've been up to. And I would just put together some articles so they can see what you've done. But it's processed direct to the consulate. Okay, so you'll go in, because usually I do that work for you and submit it to the government, right? But you actually go in yourself. You meet with an agent, you stand at the window, and they flip through your things. And as long as you don't, faint or throw up, you should be all right. So or do it after, just wave. But it's a great way to start, though.
What if you're online magazine, how would it, because I run my own website, you see, so I don't really have a sponsor as a sort. Would it be difficult for me to go, because I was out there like a few weeks ago, and I really want to get there again.
I guess, sort of thinking strategically, you know, I think what would be important is that your website not be your name. Does that make sense? Because as long as your sponsor seems like someone not you, it should work. Does that make sense? Because if you go in, it's a little too circular, where you're like, let me introduce you to myself, and I'm sponsoring myself for my visa for myself, and they're going to see through that. But I think if you can, in terms of presenting it, if you create a little bit of distance between your website and you, because I will say I do not make a distinction between print and online publications, and so I don't see why they would either.
My friend there with the colourful t-shirt. Yeah, yourself. You can introduce yourself and where you from.
Yeah, my name's Courtney Star, actor from South London, to be specific. Part of a youth drama group. And my question is, same as my friend here, is if you have a online business website and you do a gig in America, be it as a musician or an actor, what happens if you get paid through PayPal? Is that still?
Wow.
You get paid for what?
Gentleman's question is, if you're an artist and you do an event or you perform your art out there, what happens if you get paid through PayPal?
Or livestock, or beads, you know. I mean, it's you know, you're still being compensated stateside. I mean, I think there's, you know, so no. You know, here's the thing: if you're coming in and you want to sort of, you don't want to make the big leap, right? You don't want to pay for a 3-year visa with me, but you want to kind of see what happens as a band-aid. All right, this is not a perfect solution, but as a band-aid for your first interactions, have your customers wire a UK account. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's okay. All right, so I wouldn't do that for 6 months. But again, there's no scrutiny. It's just about how you want to sort of get it right from the start. All right, so that if we do start talking, you know, there are no problems for us in creating your visa application in the future. All right, that doesn't worry. I mean, PayPal is just kind of, you know, it's like, oh look, he went that way. So.
Just one comment I wanted to make. You made there was a question earlier on. You said when's the sort of best time to go to America? I think it was something like that, a question like that. And there's one thing, again, Dreddy touched on it. It's this thing about actually being prepared when you get there. Or sorry, before you get there, is so bloody important. It's like, you know, as Jazzy was saying, don't be going there saying, I've almost got a beat that I was thinking of in my head that's almost done, that isn't quite blah, because if you end up, which you probably will, end up in a position like Dreddy, where there's 15 A-listers in a room with a person going, okay, play me something, and you're not ready, they will remember your face. Because they will remember you, and they will just be like, okay, cool, and that's it. Once the door's shut, the door's shut. So it's like, again, what Jedi was saying, you yourself have got to be brutally honest with yourself about whether you are completely ready, whether you have, you know, loads of people here have been asked to bring cards. Who brought cards today? So, okay. So that already shows you like who means it and who doesn't. No, I bought cards. I bought cards.
Controversial.
But all I'm saying is if you didn't bring cards, then already it means that you didn't quite read the mailer that went out, and so it means you missed a detail. If you miss a detail in NYC, you're dead. Dead. That's it. So it's like that's the vibe. That's be prepared. I don't know what the Latin is for that.
Exactly.
Is there anybody else who'd like to add on before we wrap up today? My friend over there on the right, please introduce yourself and where you're from. You may speak up a little bit for that mic.
I'm Swayze, I'm an artist from London.
She's modest, she's a damn good singer. Really good singer. Properly good singer.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now she has to sing.
Please sing your question to the family.
Sing. Sorry.
Kind of warm now, eh?
My question was, can you define sponsor?
Yeah, absolutely. With the O1 visa, you have a choice of one of two sorts of sponsors, right? It's the only visa that does this. All the other visas recognize one relationship, which is full-time employer to full-time employee. It makes absolutely no sense with what you do. But what the O1 visa allows you to do is have an agent as your sponsor, all right? And that's where all that freedom comes from. So to use a very bad example, if a club sponsors you, all right, and you sing twice a week, that's all well and good. You have a visa sponsor, but you're not allowed to be paid by any other club. You know, you'll be happy and swiftly starve to death. And so, you need an agent to open up those other doors for you. The sponsor is the one U.S. company that can pay you. Okay, so choose wisely in that regard. Okay.
Thank you for listening to the panel. Please do stick around Network. There's some really great, talented, powerful people in the room. Take advantage. Thank you.
My name is Brendan. I work for Amanda Gillespie. This event has been amazing. It had really great people who were the top of their field, like leading hip-hop artists, journalists, those kinds of people, and we found the kind of potential clients we were looking for through this service.
Hi, I'm Jazzy B, the original Funky Dread of Soul to Soul, and I think events like this is just so important, especially to us in Britain. The knowledge, the networking, the people that we're going to be rubbing shoulders with. And don't be shy over the fact that everybody believes it's going to be the people who are in the know and blah blah, because it's all about you. You're the next generation. You are the kings and queens of the street. Here we have the biggest shopping window in the world for us to sell our wares. And often enough it's about the up and coming talent, the people with the new ideas. This is what one of the great things about being innovative and creative in Britain is all about. And a networking like today, for me, it's been one really worthwhile experience. So it's all good.
I'm Sembra and I'm the MD of a youth marketing company called Uproar. It's really good to come down here today and see a lot of positive people that are working in the industry. And the good thing about it is most people are actually doing business. They're not just down here talking and giving it a lot of spout. They're actually doing business and they're actually doing a lot of really good things. So well done to Aaron and the boys. It's a good event.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle. I'm PR assistant at Nike. I came down to the event tonight to find out a bit more about working in the US, future opportunities. I found it really helpful. A lot of people here to talk to. Everyone sticks around at the end to talk and network. It's a really cool vibe. I definitely recommend it.
The event so far has been good. It's been very informative and definitely more so for, I'd say, small businesses. I want to produce a small business or open a small business, and the idea of them being able to cross over is very inspiring. I don't know how you found it.
Yeah, I guess I think it's been a great opportunity to have a forum such as this. It's been a long while since I've been to anything like this. It's just a great opportunity to meet a few people, network, and to realise that there's a lot more out there. There are a lot more people working in the industries that you wouldn't otherwise be aware of. So yeah, it's a great opportunity.
Yo, what's up people? This is Leo the Lion. So I'm here at this event and I'm actually loving it because it's good to see people networking. I don't really hardly come to these things, but it's good to be at this one because I like to see people talking, coming together with good ideas. So yeah, it's a good look.
This is Sumit Sharma from Hip Hop Chronicle UK. It was a great event today. Jazzy B showed up ready, had some interview thoughts, I think. Jazzy B dropped some good gems. It was very important for everyone in the UK to come together. I think that Amanda, the immigration expert, had some great ideas for people like myself, journalists, and for artists themselves who want to go over to the States and work out there and progress this culture we have, the UK hip-hop culture and urban music culture, to another level. And I think it was, I'm glad I was here.
Yo, what's up? This is your boy Dreddy. I'm here spreading knowledge, and we need more events like this. If I don't see another one soon, I know where you live. Peace out. One.
This was an amazing event. If you're not at it, you're stupid. You need to get to it. That's just how it is. Don't be daft. Get to it. Don't be daft. Get to it.